gatefold card. It has two panels in the front that open up, and then you can decorate the front of it any way you'd like. So I'll show you how to do this one. You're just going to cut a piece of cardstock 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, which is a half a sheet of cardstock. Next, you're going to score it at 2 1/8 and 6 3/8. So you can create any size card if you just divide it by 4 and then score. You want to crisp those corners, so you're going to use a bone folder. And what I like to do to make sure that it's perfect is I just push it against itself like this, so that you're basically pushing those doors together, and then I score away from it, and that'll give you a nice, neat, even score. And you can see you open it and close it like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is decorate the inside. This is a piece of 4 by 5 1/4, which is 1/4 inch smaller than my base. And you're going to adhere that right down. And then I just took a piece of Whisper white cardstock that was 1/4 inch smaller, so it's 3 3/4 by 5, and you're just going to put that right on top. And if you're going to do any stamping, you want to do that before you adhere it. Now we're going to decorate these front panels, and I'm using 2 pieces of the silver foil cardstock, and those are 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And on top of that, I'm going to layer some pattern paper, and this is the designer series paper that is called Floral Boutique. So you're just going to adhere that panel right to the front, and it gives you a nice little even border. And then just do the same with the other one. Once you have your adhesive on your panels, you're just going to line them up, and you're always looking to get an equal border all the way around. But when you do this kind of card, it's very important that these 2 panels line up together. So make sure that the tops and the bottoms line up, okay? And then you're going to take something decorative for the center. So I'm just going to do the same thing, where I'm going to layer 3 pieces of cardstock that are 1/4 inch smaller. So we're starting at 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, 2 1/2 by 2 1/2, 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. So you're going to stamp whatever your greeting is that you like, and then you're just going to layer the 3 pieces together. Now once you have that all layered together, the important thing is to remember you're only putting adhesive on one side. So if I'm putting it here, I'm only putting adhesive from here over, or whichever panel you'd like. So I'm going to put the adhesive a little bit short of that corner. And then you're just going to line up that corner and that corner, so that you know you have it lined up correctly. And when you're finished, you have this perfect gatefold card. This card is called a Z-fold because of the shape that you fold it into. It's a valley and mountain fold. And it also starts with a piece of 8 1/2 by 11 cardstock, and you're going to cut it at 4 1/4, which will give you 4 1/4 by 11. You're going to score at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. And then you're going to use a bone folder to score back on those folds, so you get nice crisp folds. Okay, so here's your Z. You're just simply going to decorate the inside with a piece of 4 by 5 1/4, which is going to give you a nice border all the way around. And I just did a little bit of background stamping there. And for this panel, we're going to use a piece of designer series paper, and this piece is cut to 2 1/4 by 4. And again, we have that same border. You're going to just simply attach that to the front, and then you can decorate a piece any size or shape you would like. I used the Sweet and Sassy framelits, and I did a layered heart. So you're just going to simply layer this together. And then the important thing to remember is you're only attaching it on one side. So I'm going to go to the side of my V, and I'm going to put some adhesive, and I'm going to put a little extra adhesive because you certainly don't want your card to fall apart. I like to line this up just so that it looks like it's right on the edge, and then just adhere it, and that gives you your great little Z fold. Now I always like to add a little something extra, so I'm using a Wink of Stella pen to just fill in that heart with a little bit of glitter. And this is a great way to make your project look like it has a little bling on it without you working too hard. So again, that's your Z-fold. This is a really simple but impressive card. It's called a twisted card. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. So once you create your card, you can either tape this down and not use it as a pocket. And the same with the inside. You can use this as a pocket if you have a gift card or a check, or you could just tape it down and either just stamp on it, or you could put another piece of cardstock or a pattern paper, whichever you prefer. But for our purposes, I'm just going to take a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11, and it's just cut in half. And then I'm going to score from corner to corner, and I'm going to line that up right there in the groove of my paper cutter. I'm going to do it this way so you can see. So you're going to line it up and hold down one side while you move, because they both always want to move out of the way, and you don't want that to happen. Make sure you're using your scoring blade and not your cutting blade. You're going to come across and you're going to give that a nice score. Then you're going to fold back on the score line carefully and give it a nice crease with your bone folder. Now this piece is a little difficult because you have to fold this by hand, okay? So I'm actually going to fold it this way so it has the proper orientation. So you're going to line up these two sides. Just when you do it, be careful. Make sure you keep this part here rounded so you're not giving it extra creases. And you're going to line up both the point there and the point here, and you're going to just hold it. And then you're going to just gently coax this down and then give it a good crease. Now if you have these little rugged lines there, you can just rub your bone folder on it, and that usually just takes care of it. Now to decorate this a little further, I'm going to use a Textured Impressions folder, and this one is called Sparkle. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take the front half of my card and I'm going to put that into the embossing folder. But you want to make sure that the top of it is creased and that both of these corners fit inside, and you're going to run it through the Big Shot like that. When it comes out, you're going to have that great impression on the front of it, but not on the inside. And now we're going to decorate it. So I'm going to use a piece of cardstock as a tag, and this is 2 by 3 3/4, and I'm going to use the scallop tag topper, and you just slip this in here. I like to do it upside down so that I can see that it's even, and then just press. And that's going to give you that nice tag top. I embossed It's Your Day, and I'm going to attach that toward the top. Now you always want to save your little scraps because you can use them for things like this. We're just going to adhere this little piece of silver glimmer paper to the bottom of the tag just to make it pop. You're going to use a piece of ribbon. This is the 1/8 inch silver ribbon. You're going to come through and you're going to go back in. Now the trick to this is when you pull to tighten, you want to only pull one at a time, and then you won't tear your cardstock. And then just trim the top, and that can go right in there. Then you're going to open up your card and you're going to do a greeting. So I'm just going to do a little greeting. Now there's a couple of ways that you can go here. You can close this up, as I said, or you can just leave it as pockets. So usually my cards come with gift cards or checks, so I'm going to leave it the way it is. Now to decorate it a little bit, what I'm going to do is take some Rhinestone Basic Jewels. I'm going to take my paper piercer, and I'm just going to come across the bottom here with 3 jewels that are the same size. And then I'm going to decorate this tag a little bit with these smaller ones. Rhinestones are a great way to make something shimmer. Okay, so now I'm going to leave it like that, but I don't want it flopping around in there like that. I kind of want to coax it to where I want it to be. So I'm going to take a couple of glue dots and I'm going to just put them on either side of my tag. So not too close. You want to make sure that there's enough room for the tag to move in and out freely. So make that a little bit loose. And then on the inside, you can do the same or not. I'm going to just leave that the way it is. And there you have your twisted card. This card is a slanted trifold. It has 3 panels that are the same size. You're looking at the front of these 2 panels while you can see the back of that one. And there are a million different ways to do this. I'm going to show you how I did this one. I started with a piece of cardstock that was 7.5 by 10.5. And then I'm going to score it in thirds. So the first one is scored at 3.5, and make sure that you're using your score blade and not your cutting blade. I'm going to score it again at 7. And that is going to give me 3 equal panels. Now for this card, what I did was I marked the bottom of it here. So as you can see, this piece here is 3.25. So what you can do is just mark with a pencil a little spot that is 3.25, if that's the size that you'd like. And I've seen these done where they're actually cut in half so that you can have 2 identical size cards. But I like my card to be nice and big, so this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go from that tick mark that I just made up to this corner. Again, I'm going to show you this way. So I'm putting this tick mark right here into my score right there on that groove, and then I'm going to match that up with the corner up here. And then when I close that, I'm going to bring my cutting blade and I'm just going to cut that. And you can go ahead and just erase your little mark right there. You're going to use your bone folder, which you should do for every card because you want that to be a nice, neat score. Next, you're going to take 3 pieces of pattern paper, or you can stamp your own, and one's going to be here, one's going to be here, and one's going to be here. So the important thing is that you know the angle that you're cutting. So on the front piece, I'm cutting the lower side on the left and the higher side on the right, and I'm going to do the opposite for the center. So what I've done with these 2 is I've already marked them, and I'll give you that measurement. The little one here has the first mark at 3, and this one is 4 3/8. This one is 5 7/8 and 7.25. So this one is going to be cut at 5 7/8 and then 4 3/8. Once you've made your tick marks, you're going to get your paper cutter. Make sure you're using your cutting blade. And then you're going to go from one tick mark to the other. Again, you're going to line them up right there in the grooves and just slice. And that's going to give you your angle. And you're going to do the same thing with the other 2 pieces that you cut. Line up in the groove and slice. Definitely save these little pieces because they're great for little punch outs. Once you've cut them, you're going to just put adhesive on the back, and you're going to line them up and just adhere them to your panels. And you want to try and get your borders nice and neat and even always. And don't forget this one, it's the back panel that you're seeing. Now you can do this nice and neat like this, or you can do waves, or you can have little punches sticking up, any design or way that you would like. And these are a couple of other ones. This one is a thinner version of the same card, and then this one is just a smaller version of the same card. The only other one I'm going to show you is this one here, and you'll notice this has a straight top. So this one cuts from your tick mark only up to the score line, and that'll give you just that rectangular shaped front. So whichever way you decide to do it, remember it's 3 equal panels, and this is your slanted trifold card. This card is called a Dutch door because it opens like a Dutch door, and there's a couple of different ways to do this card as well. I'm going to show you this one first, and then I'll show you a couple of alternates. You're going to begin with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock, and you're going to score it at 4 1/4. Next, you're going to take a pencil, and you're going to just mark off the 2 3/4 point. And then you're going to put that in your paper cutter at that 2 1/4 tick mark. and you're going to use your cutting blade, but you're only going to your score line. So your score line here is 4 1/4. So if you're using our paper cutter, you can just drag down right to that 4 1/4 mark, and that'll be perfect. But you can actually feel it. It sort of resists when you get to the score. You're going to then put it back in. You're going to line your score line up in the groove of your paper cutter, and then you're just going to come down to the mark that you just cut. And I just kind of go back and forth until I feel it let go. And that's going to give you this. Then you're going to take your bone folder and get a nice score line, and you're going to use a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 inch cardstock, and that's going to fit right there on top. And I'm going to cover that with a piece of patterned paper, and this one is 4 by 3, but you can make it any size that you'd like as long as it goes below that Dutch door so that you don't see the white from the front. So first you're going to line up your white cardstock, and then you're going to match that top line with your patterned paper. Just make sure that you don't have any of that white sneaking out from the top. And adhere. Now you can use a ribbon there if you don't like that straight edge, but it doesn't bother me. Next, we're going to take a piece of patterned paper, a different pattern if you'd like, and we're going to adhere that to that bottom door. And you're going to always make sure that these lines line up, because that'll be the first place your eye goes if they don't. To decorate the front, I took a piece of 3 by 3 Wisteria Wonder and a piece of 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 Whisper White. Now you can do any design on the front here. You can do a diagonal, you can do a cutout, you can do anything you like. Just remember, you're only putting your adhesive on the bottom piece when you attach. Now to decorate this, I'm going to take some of the scraps that I have of the designer paper, and I'm going to be using just a little flower punch. This is Petite Petals, and I'm going to just punch out a couple of petals, and I'm going to layer them. But I'm going to take my bone folder, just give it a quick little bend just to soften them up so that when I want to manipulate them, I can. I'm going to use mini glue dots to adhere these to each other. I'm just going to put one in the center of each one, and I'm going to offset them. So I have this one on the bottom. I'm going to alternate my petals, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And when I get to the top, I'm going to just take these petals and I'm going to hold the center, and I'm just going to push in a little bit. Then I'm going to take a couple of glue dots and I'm going to adhere them to the back. And I'm going to put that right on the front of my card. And I'm going to decorate the center with a little pearl. So I'm going to use the largest size pearl. Just stick that right on there. So that is your Dutch fold card. Now I'm going to show you a couple of variations of this card. So this one has half of the card empty and half. So I took actually half of the measurement. This one is smaller. It has a larger top and a smaller front, and I just cut this at 2 1/8. So that's up to you if you want to do that. Now there's another way to do this card that is just a little bit different. You start with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of cardstock. And then what you would do is just put your designer series paper right on top of there. And then you would cut a strip. And this strip is 2 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And then you have a choice. You can either adhere it to the card this way, so that it has this in the back. And I'll show you what that looks like. You would have that, so you could put another piece of cardstock in the back if you'd like. Or you could simply attach it to the front of your card like this. Okay, and then your card would open like this. So these are two different orientations. As you can see, you can use any size, any configuration, but if lining this up and cutting it in your score and cutting tool is too much for you, then certainly just add on a strip, whichever size you'd like, and just adhere that to the front of your card. Either way, that's your Dutch door card.